Welcome to tonight's local election coverage. We have two contested select board races. Everybody, take a deep breath. Joining us tonight, while we wait for the results, we have Troy and Todd from Gravestone Solutions and Betty Slade. So I'm sure there will be lively conversation while we wait. You want to start with Troy and Todd?
Do you have a question?
I told them we'd go right from the beginning as if we
Okay.
don't know them.
Okay.
So
Okay,
please
well,
tell us what Gravestone Solutions is.
we would actually have to go back to Betty because the work that was done initially in Westport really all came about because of the work that Betty did. And so she should fill everybody in with exactly how it came about that we were working down at the point.
Well, in 2004, there was this case, the ELJ case, in which they had taken stones from the cemetery on the property they wanted to develop to a stone crusher. And the neighbors noticed, and the neighbors called the police, and the police found the stones, et cetera. So the town went after this case because people were very upset in town about somebody doing something like this. I went to court, but the town did not prevail in court. But I and some others, particularly the Sergeant Majewski, got very interested in this and followed up to the very end. And David, my husband, and I were at the court at the end. And so I went to the lawyer for the ELJ and I said, why did the town lose? And he said to me, he denies this now, but he said to me, because the cemetery wasn't registered. And so I thought, oh, well, I can do that. So I came to the Board of Selectmen and said I'd like to register the cemeteries in Westport for their protection, and they said fine. And so I thought maybe there were 5 or 6 other than the town ones. It turned out to be 106. I invited students from the high school, went and spoke to them. About 50 students volunteered to help us.
Nice.
Out of that, one ended up helping us for 5 years. Andrew Isidoro was his name. He finished high school, he went on to college and graduate school and continued to help all through this.
Wow.
Just were volunteers. So what we did was we had to locate the cemeteries, and work had been done before by Eleanor Tripp from the Handy House, and George Rodericks, another man who lived in Old County, Hicksbridge. And so based on that, we started writing up the information that's necessary to register cemeteries at Mass Historic Commission. So they became registered cemeteries, which was a lot of work, actually, learning how to do it and doing it. I had a partner, Paul Pannoni, who would go out and find the cemeteries. Pete Baker worked with us, mainly Pete, Paul, Andrew, and I. And people on the whole were really interested in letting people know they had cemeteries, but there were others who wouldn't allow us on the property. But Wes Norman, the cemetery director, went on them anyway, and we were able to measure. But we were using hand, GIS things, which are really off a lot. So, but we were measured and looked to see how many stones were there. We did no cleaning or anything. We didn't have the capacity. So after we had them registered, we decided that we should set up a website. And through our personal computer gurus, we found somebody, Gary Harstead, who agreed that he would build a website. And he built a very nice website. I was telling somebody today that we had 60,000 hits in the first 2 months. on that. Yeah, we were measuring the hits at that time, which shows you how interested people were. Of course, a lot of us were going on it often, but not 60,000 times.
Right.
But anyway, so we did that. And then we decided we needed to have some kind of stone, well, we thought we should have signs saying each cemetery is number WSP 800 or whatever it was. But we decided the signs weren't a good idea because people were cutting down signs all over town at that particular time for some reason. These big plaques, you know, somebody cut one of them at the bases, yeah. So we decided to do boulders. And we got Albanese grandson he did most of the inscriptions as community service.
Wow.
So Albanese was helpful to us. And then people just showed up, you know, Lenny Potter lent his son and his nephew and his trucks and things to carry them. We couldn't carry them. But we did get one truck from a neighbor that had it would lift the stones up. If you could roll them on, it'd lift them up, put them in, and then it'd drop it down, and then we could put them in. So we did that for a lot of them, but not all of them, quite a few. But people were aware that this was going on. And someone stole one of the stones. Can you believe it?
There are a couple of them that are missing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they just stole, but, so even though they're heavy, they found a way. But, so that was sort of people kept telling us, we think there's a cemetery here, and we'd go look and so forth, and we found a few more that way, and we found like 16 cemeteries or burial grounds, small burial grounds that had been destroyed. People told us they'd been destroyed in various ways. Then we started getting reports as developments were taking place. There had to be a cemetery there, so forth. So we went to the assessors, and the assessors put on each property where there was a cemetery, they noted it. If you look at the GIS and you look at the bottom, you know, you on the left-hand side, you'll see cemetery or historic house or whatever. And Sharon Potter did that work. We gave her the information and she put it in. And just to follow up on that pretty quickly, something people may not know is that we also, in the last 2 years, have done an overlay of cemeteries on the GIS. So when you go to the GIS and you look up in the left-hand corner, there's a little arrow next to a word property. If you push that arrow, cemetery overlay will drop, and it shows where all the cemeteries are in Westport.
Oh,
And we found errors in that. We had it done, you know. We found errors in that, and we corrected the errors. And Sharon and Theo did most, of course, all that work. Our work was simply to put it all together, the information all together. So there is a gentleman in town named Ted Kennery who lives at the harbor. He's from New York City, and he had developed this solution called D2 Biological Solutions. And I'd met him, he knew I was interested in cemeteries, and so one day he came to me and he said, "Betty, I want to do something for the town." That's how he started. And he said, "I have this solution that cleans gravestones." He said, "I don't know why anybody would be interested in cleaning a gravestone." He actually said that. He said, "But I know that you are." So I said, "Yes." And he said, "What should we do?" And I said, "Well, we should get people to come clean gravestones." So when was it, 2018, was it? Or
19?
18 or 19?
yeah, that we, in August,
Yep.
that I asked the Historical Society to cooperate in this, and so they helped us. And we put out an announcement that we were going to be having this sort of seminar. We had a scientist, he was a scientist from Columbia, and also that's where Ted had worked. And he came and spoke. And then another man who had a gravestone business in Texas, who turned out to be a person I knew from a small town in Crockett, Texas.
Wow.
Just small world. And Ted. And so they gave talks, and Todd attended that, as well as 49 other people. 49 people came from all over town, and enjoyed it and found it wonderful. And so we said, well, we'll continue cleaning, and Ted said, I will furnish all of this material to you for nothing, for the town, to use for the town. He's very generous.
Yes.
He's very generous, very caring. And so we finally, this guy shows up because he lives, this is Troy, Troy Rebello and Todd Batista. Troy lives across from Linden Grove and loves Linden Grove.
I do.
And he had been taking care of it for years and years already. And so he shows up, and all of a sudden we start getting young leadership.
Wow.
And others did too. So we started doing the cleaning, and we cleaned, and we did it every Saturday. You know,
Yeah,
and
through COVID, there was quite a bit of, when people could not go out. I remember us cleaning
Yes.
on the Green Allen Cemetery on Drift Road, and we're all outside there, and we were wearing masks because we really just did not know. We were
Right.
distanced and so forth.
Yeah.
But what had happened was we'd cleaned down at the point, and I always tell the story, it's akin to somebody that, and we all know somebody who hasn't been to the dentist in maybe 20 years, and then they suddenly go and they get their teeth cleaned, and you realize when you see them, oh, they had 2 teeth broken in the front. Well, you never noticed it before because they were so dirty. Now you see it. And it was the same thing with the cemeteries, that the stones that were broken really stood out to us because suddenly, instead of all this lichen and mold, you have a sea of white, and the broken stones really stood out. And so we said, what would it take to repair this? And so we looked into it and found out the cost would be between $400 and $500 to fix one stone that would be of a moderate size. So we got a little bit of sticker shock and said, it was Norm Anderson who was working with us, and he said, there's a guy who actually teaches this, how to do the restoration work. And so Betty went ahead and obtained CPA funding for the cemetery restoration in Westport, and we used a portion of that funding to bring the conservator here to work with us in the Westport cemeteries. And that's when Troy joined. This was in 2020. And since then, we have repaired in Westport over 900 gravestones and cleaned upwards of 16,000.
Wow.
And everything that's been done in Westport has been all voluntary. So the CPA funding has paid for materials, it has paid for our training, certainly, and it has paid for tools because over time, the tools start to wear out. But all of our hours were voluntary. To be truthful, during COVID, we had much better attendance than as we came out of COVID. It's been a struggle. The last couple of years have been difficult. We did a large project. We did a couple last year. We did one that was on
Blossom Road.
we did one on Blossom Road. We did the one at the Wayner Farm, and we did one of a small cemetery on Sodom Road. And so it was those were our big projects. But by the end of the summer, it was Troy and I doing everything. So whenever there's folks that are interested, we always say that if we had 1 hour of volunteer time for every 10 likes that you get on Facebook or social media, we'd be great, So that's how that has gone. The town cemeteries, the 105, we obviously haven't gone to 105. We've probably gone to about 50 that we've done. And over time, the D2 will work anywhere from 2 to 4 years. And then you have to go back and spray, but the real hands-on invasive scrubbing doesn't have to happen, as long as you keep up with the spraying. And that's kind of the stage we're in now, which works well for Troy and I because we're working in other communities now. This ended up being kind of a side business. Maybe Troy can explain kind of how that happened.
From where we are now to what we used to be. Like I say, for me, doing this, like Brady spoke earlier, I started taking care of Linden Grove and Maple Grove, just doing oddball things because I lived across the street and my daughter was 3 or 4 years old. My daughter's now 30. So we've come a long way in everything we've done, and it's always been in the back of my mind to fix cemeteries, but it's not my property, so I can't fix it unless we get permission. So, I mean, I'm a very able person. I'm the MacGyver in the team. That's even my day job, I'm a MacGyver. But how to do something non-invasive in a cemetery. And I don't want to go there and fix your grandpa's plot, and you come back and throw rocks at me saying, leave my stuff alone. The nice thing with Westport, they put out through public notice that we can fix any gravestone in all our cemeteries, which is a great thing. And if you want to opt out, you can, and so far, I don't think anybody's opted out. I mean, you get stuff for free, it's a beautiful thing. For me to get into this, I remember Todd put a flyer up the street across from my house. And that's when we were having Jonathan Appel come up from Atlas Preservation to train us how to do restoration, one step up from cleaning. And I sent him an email like, hopefully, pick me, pick me. You know, I had no idea. Are you going to have room to fit me in? Not knowing I'd be here, 4 or 5 years later, like, oh my God, he picked me. But we started off with, like I say, basic cleaning and basic repairs, stand a stone up or a simple fracture, glue it back together. And we've gotten to the point now where we're doing very complex things where the man who trained us is just blown away with our abilities.
Wow.
He's trained people across the country. He says, we're one of the few groups who've actually caught it and took off running. It's, like I say, it becomes a passion.
Yes.
An addiction, whatever you want to call it. Everybody says they don't have time. I don't have time.
Right.
It's no different than when you suddenly have a child. Suddenly you have all kinds of time to raise a kid. Well, suddenly I have all kinds of time to work in a cemetery that I didn't have before. But this is something that evolved into, hey, we'll meet every Saturday, and then, hey, what about Tuesday? And then it was Wednesday and Thursday. And we're doing 3 or 4 days a week, and we're averaging for 3 years in a row somewhere around 300 stones a year.
Wow.
And people were just, how? And we're talking to surrounding communities, we helped out a little bit, and they're doing 5 or 6 stones. Some are doing 15, and we're just knocking the wheels off of everybody. But we're getting better and better at what we do. Our abilities are, we're to this day trying new things. And we're asking people, or should I say, people are coming to us as opposed to us going to them.
Yeah.
We're helping out like our neighboring communities in Dartmouth and Tiverton. They'll give me a call at work.
Providence.
But it's just like Tiverton. Tiverton's our neighbor, the next town over. And they'll call me up and say, hey, I got a problem. So I'll stop by after work.
Can you come over and help us?
So I go out and help him out. He's done the same thing. And now they're coming over to help us out a little bit, kind of returning the favor. And at the same time, we're training them.
Nice.
Like I say, the initial funding through CPA funding through Betty got us the training. And like I say, we parlayed that from an initial investment that was small, like Todd's saying, up to something that's worth $400,000, let's say. So it's
Wow.
Yeah,
a lot more than tenfold.
the work that was done in town, and I'm very proud of that, the work that the volunteer group has done in Westport. We've spent, maybe $22,000 or $24,000 from
Yeah.
private donations and the CPA funding, which is only half. The fair market value of what the work that was done in Westport would be about $475,000.
Wow.
If you were to hire a conservator to come in and do that, and that's.
Yeah, I'd like to, the CPA funding is being used throughout the state for gravestone repair and cleaning. So we don't have to, we do the cleaning free. So some towns do have volunteers, and they were saying that's the only way that it could be done, really, to go through an old town like ours with old burial grounds and actually clean a lot of stones could only be done with volunteers. It's just too expensive. But this was also we have had private funding, and we've had help from the Historical Society to maintain those funds, because we make sure it's all honest. And the CPA, the way that we work is that each bill that comes in is looked at by the chair and the vice chair. So John Bell's, the vice chair, is aware, and the CPC approves all payments. And they have distributed between what they, in their private work and what they do for the town, and I know the difference. So it's worked out very well, but the volunteer side of it is extremely important. I'd also like to say, just to emphasize their expertise, I do talk to people who, like Ted Kittery, who knows a lot about this all over the country, probably overseas too a little bit, and Jonathan Appel and Rusty Brenner, the other, and they have a reputation of just getting better and better. And this guy is even trying to learn to inscribe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
We're trying.
And they make use of as much as they can that's there, and they're always thinking about the best way to do it. But on top of all of this, believe it, all this time that they spend, they also write about the people that they
Yes.
that they find buried, and write fascinating stories on a Facebook, Westport Gravestone Cleaning and Restoration Group. They are amazing stories. People love them. And Todd can't stand it. He's just got to write about the person. And he's got to write about the whole history, of their interrelations with their families, and it's fascinating. So
I've read some, yeah.
that's become, a very important aspect of the work, which keeps attracting people. Today I was standing out, freezing to death with the and people were talking about the gravestone work.
There you go.
It's remarkable, and I'm so glad, because I have turned it all over to them basically. Although I hope to start cleaning again. We do hope to reactivate that. I got away from it. It would help if I got back in and started
like I
pushing
said,
a little bit harder.
One
other thing I want to say. Each year, he gets a $1,500 bonus for community service from his company, and he contributes it to this project. So,
Yeah.
I mean, this is just way beyond anything I could have imagined.
You brought up a fact too with CPA funding, and and we've seen it, towns outside of Westport where they say can get $50,000 fixed, and you throw it at a cemetery, and a lot of it doesn't stick. I mean, you don't get a lot for 50 grand. You can fix an average size cemetery, but you say Westport, and we have 3-4 big cemeteries, and you're looking at a lot of money. Like he brought up $400,000 or $500,000 by the time you get into it. So you're looking at something, if you can find someone, for one, to do it. And it's also the continued effort over years to do all the cemeteries. Where you do it in a volunteer group, like you say, you got somewhere around 50,000, and we haven't got halfway through it in 5 or 6 years.
No.
And it's like, hey, spend more money. It's like, we don't have to. We're doing what we need to do. And the biggest thing, like I know you're pushing for, is Westport has a lot of cemeteries, is private funding for the private cemeteries that aren't owned by anybody. And we can't really be using CPA funding to fix that, because we're supposed to be using on town properties. And like, I try to make posts on Facebook, and I hope more people follow us there. My mommy follows me every day. Todd does amazing write-ups in genealogy and history of people and their families, which she loves to read about. That isn't my things is more hands.
Well, you do some good stories too.
But I'm also, like I say, I'm in Rhode Island or Connecticut chasing down brownstone. I'm up in Vermont chasing down marble. So I can make new stones or replace half the stones and stuff with him and other volunteers who work with us. I think a lot of it too, over the course of years, is it wears off on people. They do it and then they get bored.
Yeah.
You know, it's like saying, I was really into this and,
And that's why you have to keep moving. I mean, for Troy and I, for our TNT, Gravestone Solutions this year, we're in, I don't know, a half dozen different communities. And you try not to be in the same community every single week. You got to move around a little bit. And it's the same thing with Westport. But for Westport for 2025, what I would like to see is more of an emphasis on Maple Grove Cemetery, because it was sprayed, but there really was no significant physical cleaning. Some of the stones were cleaned, but a lot of them are already churning again.
that's very aggressive lichen.
It's a very aggressive lichen, we've been told. It's a green shield lichen, which is growing on the granite, and so it's going to need to be sprayed, and there's going to be a lot of physical labor involved at Maple Grove. So hopefully maybe
That's
we'll
what we,
get some
yeah,
volunteers.
that's what we're hoping to
to do that.
concentrate on, Maple Grove, yeah.
Troy has taken over the maintenance of the pump at that
Yep, the hand pump.
cemetery, takes it out in the wintertime and puts it back in the springtime. And when it broke, he got new pieces for it and just went and did it all
I'm
himself.
hoping to revive the pump that's behind Linden Grove shed. The well is there, it's covered.
Yeah,
It probably hasn't been used
I know.
in 100 years.
But there is water in it.
I have,
It's
it's got
fine.
water in it, and I just gotta make a little house to go over it. I got a pump for it, I got the pipe for it, I got the foot valve, and what I need, time.
Just need
See,
time.
The biggest thing is
But
that-
you know what my biggest problem is? My biggest problem with these guys, particularly this one, is that he spends money and he never asked to be reimbursed until 2 years later.
You know what? I
And
got,
it takes you 6 months to get,
I got a check in the mail yesterday for the past 18 months. So, that's what I call my Portuguese savings system.
but he goes, I mean, he's always running around looking for things in other towns. I mean, they drive these long distances. Now you're going to be in the distribution of the D2. That's
Yes.
something you might want to speak
Yes.
about.
So Ted, Troy, and I met together also with Rusty Brenner, who's a partner in the D2 product. And there is a local distributor here in Westport, Norm Anderson. He does a great job. There are some communities and cities that want to be able to purchase in bulk. They want to be able to have product shipped to them. There are others that need to pay sales tax to do things, and so we were given the opportunity to say, hey, look, if you'd like to distribute the product, that's something we need here. We need you to be able to ship and to, handle sales tax and credit cards, things like that. And so we
Let's just say
are,
to be able to do net 30 days or a payment plan or whatever it
exactly.
might be.
And so that's something that we are undertaking. We've gone through the DOR steps, and now just working on some of the technical logistics to it. But that's something we're going to be doing.
We should give some tribute to Dawn also.
Oh, definitely.
My sister there. I
Yeah,
miss her.
Dawn.
Yeah, I miss Dawn Young. Dawn Young has been a part of our group for a number of years. Her employment has kind of taken her away from us. She is very skilled, brings the sunshine every day. So Dawn, if you're out there, we do want you, we look forward to the day that you'll be able to come back to work with us.
She also helped you set up the company. and
Absolutely.
Those kinds of.
Yeah, and she was a partner in TNT with Troy and I, and we both said, look, if you can come back to work, you come back in as a partner anytime you want. Just say the word. But it's tough because it's a lot of hours. I mean, this year, on average, we've done about 300 a year, and I assume we'll be in that range this year as well, and traveling to do it. So there's a lot of stuff, a lot of balls in the air at once, I guess you could say.
So I think we can say in Westport that we're very fortunate. First of all, having the Community Preservation Act funding is really helpful. This is one example of what this can do, and what it does is basically gives you a basis from which people can work privately, so it's a private town, well, it's town taxpayer money, and the townspeople actually get involved in all of these projects. That's the way that it works. I think this one is a little bit more unique because it's continuous. It's not building a house or fixing a house. It's continuous. It's going to continue on until you've done all 12,000 inscribed.
And then you got to start over again. But, you know, to her point, Carrie, the thing is that we could not have done what we did and have done without the work that Betty did and Gary did and Paul did and Ted did. So this isn't like the Todd and Troy did this. This is a whole
Yeah.
group coming together.
Right.
Because, you know, somebody had to register the cemeteries.
Yeah.
Someone had to find all the cemeteries. Somebody had to make sure that they ended up on the assessor's map. Somebody had to step forward and say, look, I'm going to help with this product. Somebody had to come up with the idea of, okay, I'll put in for the CPA funding and we'll put this together. Somebody had to come here and train us. And then, you know,
Somebody had to put up a
in
sign, Troy, help us.
Physical labor.
I didn't know the sign across from my house was going to be a trap. Years later, here I am. No, it's neat. It's funny because we're both 57. And like Betty brought up, it's nice to get some young blood into this. But when I talk to other people, they say it would be nice if we get some young people doing this. And I'm like, hey. And they're looking at someone in their 30s, you know, which is true. You got someone who can bend up and pick and
Yeah.
move 200 pounds every day. We do it, and we're crippled. But like I say, my daughter does it, his sons do it.
Yeah, I wanted to
And like I
mention
said-
that. I mentioned that is how the families have gotten involved. I mean, your family, your entire family is involved. They used to bring food to us.
Sometimes,
Your
sure.
wife would
Sure,
bring
she
food,
does,
but
yes.
your two boys,
Yeah, they both helped.
your daughter,
And Jamie.
yeah, your wife.
Like I say, we're training them, so when we're gone, someone's got to fix our graves.
My wife, Kristen, says that she and Troy's wife, Wendy, are the cemetery widows once it gets to springtime because we're away so much working. You know, you're working your day job all week. This isn't our full-time work. If we're almost to the point where it could be out.
Wasn't that a movie, Romancing the Stone?
Romance.
We're over here in this, we're in love with cemeteries.
Yeah.
No, we put there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes.
Yep.
Between all the cleaners and stuff, like he says, thousands of stones have been cleaned, and that work is priceless. It's so many countless hours. Like I say, hopefully we can get the cleanup crew. There's still some people that are still at it.
We'll do it. We'll
We've got
do
a
it.
handful. I mean,
And we invite
Boyle.
people to come join us.
let's say Sherry,
Jill,
Laura,
Michelle.
everybody. And there used to be
Adam.
15, 20 people, and you make a lot more headway when you have 15 and 20 people. The tough part with Maple Grove is a lot of granite, and granite is a lot more time-consuming, especially.
We
with the
need
light-
Joe, he liked to do granites.
Well, yeah, it's. well,
But there is shade there, which is a little bit different. That's what
Yeah.
makes, Beech Grove is difficult because the stuff that you're using to clean the gravestones, you want to be above 45 degrees to get the best effect from the D2 right away, but also because it's cold. And if you're going to be out there at 35 degrees, it's not good. And if you're spending a day outside doing that when it's 85 or above, I've done that and come home and basically crawled into bed.
Yeah, yeah, it's tiring.
Afterwards, and that's tough. It's tough.
He's got 6 months on me. No, it's, my job is always been a lot more active, because I'm the repair guy who fixes everything in my day, then I gotta come home at night and fix gravestones. No, like, we sat down with Ted and Rusty Brenner from Texas a few weeks ago, talking about D2, and we're also talking about repair methods in cemeteries. I also brought up to him about ground penetrating radar,
Yeah.
which is something he's very interested in doing in Maple Grove.
Yeah, we should mention that. There's a
Grove.
ground penetrating radar that can be done at cemeteries. It's done for various reasons, but the main one is, of course, to see if there are bodies in certain areas. And if you find that there aren't, you can actually sell those as more lots and makes money for the town. So you invest in that, but you also get a return.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's income generating.
Sure.
And this Rusty Brenner does this. And we talked about the last time he was here, especially to look
Yeah,
at
it's going to be very,
Maple Grove and Linden Grove to see if there
for
are
Maple
places.
Grove especially, it's going to be very viable for the town to get him up here and do it.
Yeah. We should emphasize that this is not taking plots that somebody paid for and then abandoned.
no.
But what's happened is over time, as you're clearing brush, stuff gets piled up, trees, so forth, and areas that are not being used, you get brush that's growing out. So an area that would be viable and able to be sold has really been taken over.
It's been reclaimed.
It's been reclaimed, that's the word, thank you. It's been reclaimed by nature. And if, the thing is, if you're looking for graves from the 1700s, ground penetrating radar isn't really going to show you
No,
anything.
no.
But if you're looking for, in a modern graveyard like this, you're going to be able to find, there's a metal casket here, or there's a vault or something. You'll be able
Yeah.
to pick that up, and then you can determine, all right, this is a viable area where you could actually bury folks. So,
We should note that the town has a very small cemetery department, and the town administrator is, in addition to the 50 other jobs he has, he's the cemetery director. So it's hard to run for town cemeteries, and then also they have responsibility for 40 others. So this came in the 1920s, when people from different family burial grounds came and gave $100 to the town for the town perpetual care, and they're still taking care of those cemeteries. So when people see that things haven't been done, a lot of it is due to the lack of staff. And if we could make some more money, maybe for
Right.
the town, and particularly in these other cemeteries, those two cemeteries, it would be very helpful. There are people really who want to be buried at Maple and Linden because their families are buried there. For one reason, some live across the street, or whatever. So there's
I know that.
there's other, but I wanted to just emphasize that it's the town in its difficult financial situation. That the cemetery department is one that gets, even though it has perpetual funds, it's not enough to pay for a lot of staff.
Big difference, like you say, when, like Linden Grove is pretty much all shut up. Maple Grove doesn't have a lot of burials. I live across the street. I don't see a lot of hearses.
No, they're not.
So where there's no income,
Yeah.
you don't have money to do anything. One thing I've been doing over the past few years is planting bulbs that I get from Lowe's that's donated, which they've been very generous with, and it takes a lot to plant a couple thousand bulbs in your spare time while you're fixing headstones too.
well, your granddaughter's home.
My granddaughter's helped me. My granddaughter's been 2 and 3 helping me do stuff. Was it last year or the year before? We got a donation of 4 2.5-inch diameter trunk trees from a nursery we planted in Friends North for beautification, which is a lot of things.
And that all takes time. You have to go there, and then you have to pick it up, and you have to bring it, and you
Well, it's
have to
everything.
plant it, and you have to water it, and
Yeah.
it.
That's in between fixing the stones.
I don't know how they.
And the funds that came, that big tree that was next to the old high school in the cemetery there, that had just swallowed up everything, we had done a project for Friends Central, and they had money that was earmarked for cemetery restoration. After we repaired that cemetery and cleaned it, they made a donation of that to our group. We in turn used that to remove that tree, which was actually just swallowing up graves, and it was also So, there were some people that were unhappy that that big tree came down, but most of the time what we found was that people were confusing burial ground with playground. And they were using that area for.
It's right there with the baseball field.
Yeah, where the fields
They're
were.
climbing and
so-
throwing down trash.
And there was a lot of garbage, a lot of things in there that shouldn't have been in the cemetery, and a lot of vandalism. And since the tree came down, we were able to restore the cemetery. And, okay, we took one tree away that probably a bird just dropped something, and that's how that grew. But now there's 4 new trees that are appropriate height. We've got the sign there that explains the Quaker graves and how that happened at the time. So that's another project that
Oh, it's-
turned out
like I
really
say,
well
like
that I was
that,
proud
with
of.
the tree that was there, I mean, I don't know how tall it was, 80 foot tall at least, it was probably 4 foot in diameter. We all got in touch with George at Nookachuk Orchards.
Right.
And he gave us a fantastic deal, helping us out.
Right.
I mean, we called anybody else, would probably have been 10 times the price. But he came in, he banged it out in a day. I was there helping him, and Kyle watched.
Kyle loved
That's what I was saying, it spreads out in all the town.
Like what they say,
You
it
just-
takes a village.
We, right now, thinking about all of these things, we don't generally talk about it.
We don't.
It just,
don't.
but it has spread out so much, and so many people have been touched. So, for example, there's a cemetery on Horse Neck in which the walls were taken down and so forth, and the town did intervene. She has agreed to put the walls back. But people start calling us and saying, this has happened, that they watch those.
And calling us.
Yeah.
They're calling us.
Yeah, they watch those cemeteries, and they want to tell everybody. It was all over Facebook. I mean, it was a big thing. People really care.
Yes.
Yeah,
About
Sarah contacted me,
cemetery.
hey, what's going on with that? I'm like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
And I had to put the feelers out, and I contacted you, and so you
It's
could,
really hard to,
About the Wayner Farm restoration?
we're getting there.
yeah, sure. Do we have time?
Yes, yeah.
Like I say, the big thing like that, as I found with different cemeteries, is a lot of neighbors, if they go over and cut the grass or whatever, even if they don't, they become very protective.
Yes.
And we'll go there to check it out, because that might be a project coming up, and they come over with a very honest, can I help you? I'm like, hey, I'm here to do things for free, and I volunteer for Westport. And they're like, oh, and the guy goes, oh.
Yeah.
And it's like, I hopefully we can try to get them to take care of it 2 or 3 times a year, mow it for
Yeah,
us.
look at the one we did on Tickle Road, at the end of Tickle Road, and
That's our award-winning cemetery.
and Briggs Road, the Crossman Cemetery right there, all the stones were broken, and the brush was up to our chins.
Yeah.
It was actually over Dawn's head in some places, and that was filled with those orb weaving spiders and
Only like that
everything.
big.
So it took us about 9 or 10 weeks, and Troy had to make a trip to Vermont to get marble to repair one of the stones. But we got that done, and then it's, okay, what's going to happen? And now the neighbors have kind of taken it over, and the brush is clear, the
That's
leaves are
wonderful.
clear, and so that's the idea, is that you adopt this, this becomes part of your community, and that's what makes, one of the things that makes Westport.
I don't want people to
Great.
beat themselves to death.
And,
trying to take
and one
care
of the
it.
things we should say is that people are allowed to do this. Some people think that they aren't allowed to clean, they can't touch anything, they can.
I encourage
They can't
them. Please.
destroy it, they can't change it, without permission.
Yeah, it's still-
But they can take care of it, and a lot of people have. I mean, we found that to be the case.
The neighbor on Blossom Road, we did that project, there was a big tree that had grown right in the entrance, and it was hanging over. Troy cut it down.
I cut down a lot of trees.
He cut down
All the
couple
scrub brush and
trees
stuff.
there. He just goes in and cut them down, and the neighbor came across the street and said, well, this is great. He says, let me help you. Let me take all this stuff and get rid of it for you. And he did. So that was great. And speaking of getting rid of trees, David mentioned the Wayner Farm property. So Two Running Elk, or Robert Cox, invited us last year to assist with the Pocanaket.
Pocasset, Pokanoket, yeah.
Yes, the of the Wampanoag tribe, the burial ground that's on their land off of Drift Road, and they had brought some tribal members in from all over the
Canada
place,
and
Canada,
wow.
to come in and help to clear it out. And what they really want to do is just to identify where the graves were. This was where Paul Wayner is buried and other members of the family. And they came in and they did a magnificent job clearing out. And then we came in and we were mostly raising gravestones and finding gravestones. The one thing that sticks in my mind is that Chief said, before they started the project, the day they were going to start, he said he went out to the cemetery where his father's ashes were scattered, he told me, and he was just looking out at everything overgrown and thinking about what they were going to start. And at the edge of the wall was a giant buck that just came and was looking at him. And he said, we kind of locked eyes for a minute, and he said, this buck was nowhere near water. There's no water there, so why did the buck come right there? And he said, in our culture, we believe that was, our ancestors were giving their approval of what we were doing, which was really kind of an amazing thing. In the end, we identified 63 graves there. Some of them were marked. One was a
Underground.
a stone that had been carved from the 1850s
Yeah.
that
Right.
somebody had hand chiseled, and it had sunk to where it was maybe this much above ground. And somebody came over and said, "Oh, what are you digging that thing up for? That's just a little field stone." I forget who dug it up, but before long, you got this whole stone for that.
Let me tell you what farm this is. This is in 1799, Paul Cuffey bought this land, 100 acres, and in 1800, he sold it at the same price to Michael Wayner. Michael Wayner was a full-blooded Native American married to Paul Cuffey's sister. So this is related to the Cuffey-Wayner tradition here, and there are through this period, out of that 100 acres, I think it's 46 acres left. I think it's about 46 acres they still have, and they're going to turn it into a Native American heritage site. They're working on that with the state, with Native Tribes, Land Trust. Everybody in town is helping them. I mean, the Land Trust, the Watershed Alliance, the Historical Society, individuals, the cemetery group, et cetera. And they have a website now. So people should be expecting and looking at that, and more will come about that. But I wanted to say one thing about the 250th anniversary. We have, I think, 6 cemeteries that we know have revolutionary soldiers in them. So they'll be part of the celebration. We will make those known, the Historical Society at least, will make known where they are, and people can go and look at them.
It means we got one more to repair.
Yeah, you got one more to repair. And clean. There are, of course, more. I think we could, if we want to think about that, we could, because I believe at the Davis, they're also there. We know that
Well,
the names aren't there, but we know they're there.
If you can replicate, I can replicate them for my float for the 4th of July.
Yeah, well, they had a float last 4th of July. We'll have a float for the 2026.
We're gonna have-
2026.
2026 too.
Speaking with Robert and seeing the pictures, I think it was his uncle that was there, and I'm not sure if his niece, but seeing the pictures of what used to be
amazing.
when he was younger.
George Wortham is the other.
And to see the pictures and talking about the farming and seeing the open space has now been all reclaimed by nature, where they used to sell tickets for clam bakes and stuff and shuttle people over there, and it was $1 or something. And you have a day of fun and like talking to him and what he wants to do in the future with open space and educating people, which is something that has really been.
Growing crops.
But growing crops, hopefully doing like field trips and stuff for kids, just to show them this is what our ancestors.
The schools are interested in it, yes.
It's a Herculean effort. I mean, there's so much that needs to be cleared to do this, but, we're walking through there with him, and his passion for it is really, it just, the enthusiasm bubbles out of him, and it's infectious. It really, really is. He took us to the back of the property, and there's a 1930s Westport mail truck
Yes, mail truck.
that is sitting there, which they used at one point. They had hay. They used it to put hay on, and the thing was just left there.
Yeah, and there's a boat
There's more than one boat. There are a few there, and, I like there was a 59 or 60 Rambler with a tree growing right through it in the back there, too.
What's the name of the boat they carved, they burned out?
Wayner Truth?
No.
Wayner Truth.
The type of boat?
The one that they carved and brought to
Oh, the
the
canoe.
artisan fair.
The
It's a
tribal
canoe.
canoe.
I can't think of the name.
I can't think of the name of it either.
David, what's the name of the boat? Misha, the boat?
Wayner Truth.
No, the boat that was
The
made.
actual type of boat?
It was,
The one they
it
carved.
wasn't a canoe, it was,
It's a dugout canoe.
Yeah, what's its name?
There's the name of it. There's the name of the
We-
type of boat. I can't think of what it is
Yeah,
now.
don't ask.
Oh, we lost
they-
it. Don't ask the
Oh, he
97-year-old.
Yeah, they were burning out the inside of it, the town farm.
Yeah, I went to,
And they
I
brought it up to the
went,
artisan fair.
and watched that, and that's going to be on there, on
Last time I
that
was,
property.
last time I was talking to Robert, we were walking down the driveway leading to his property,
Misha.
and there were bear tracks, which is kind of cool.
wow. Yeah,
There's
yeah.
Seen
bears,
bear
and
tracks
it's just
there.
like, no, I don't want anybody to know, and leave the bears alone. Because one of these days, someone's going to get attacked by a bear because they want to get a picture.
It's interesting, he walks through and he will tell us, that's bear tracks, this is coyote, this is just deer. But he can tell, and he's
learned.
looking at the branches and so forth, and able to do that. Fascinating.
This is
Really
tracks.
fascinating. Train tracks, yeah.
He's a war chief, and he will be the next chief of that
Yes.
group.
Two running.
He's also, he's a drummer and a singer, with their group, which performs every year at the River Day. And this summer, they toured Canada. Did you know that? They toured Canada, to the various festivals. They were invited. They also came to the dedication of the Mariners Lost at Sea, because they had ancestors who were lost at sea, the very first one.
Wow.
So it's remarkable. So cemeteries bring you into
Oh, it's true.
all of
Let's
this
see.
history.
It's like a free trip to a museum, I say, People ask me how I got interested in it. When I was very, very young, my mom used to take me to Pine Grove Cemetery in New Bedford, and I was learning how to walk, and I was in a stroller, and that's how I learned how to read and count and so forth, by looking at the stones. And then it was more, I was into just the conservation piece of it and documenting the history when I was a teenager. So it's been a passion forever. And then when Betty has this event, we're going to learn how to clean stones? Okay, we're going to go down there and we're going to learn how to clean. And it just all snowballed from there.
Oh, it's neat.
Lifelong.
Like for us, for Todd and I now, it comes down to the preservation of everything.
Yeah.
We're trying to keep what used to be in the present now and keep it alive for hopefully the next 50 years and 100 years, and our repairs will start failing. I hope they last that long. But along the way, it's like we do different repairs. Crossman is one. Friends North, when we took down that big tree and moving things around, we found a little girl's headstone we didn't know existed. So Todd added it to the database, and through his magical guru work, he found that she was little and she choked on a bean and died.
oh, wow.
To find this out,
Emily Chase.
to find out that long ago, at Crossman Cemetery, we found the father's stone nearest the road was probably a friend of the family or whatever. It didn't match Crossman. I can't remember the woman's name. But her stone was buried in the ground 6 inches down or whatever.
Oh, she was the sister, actually, of
But every stone in that cemetery was broken. And like I say, we spent weeks and weeks and weeks doing this stuff. But it's like the work with Jonathan Appel and have him train us. And a couple of years down the road, when we repair Crossman Cemetery, and people compete nationally. So for fun, I threw in some pictures.
Yeah,
And I get a notification that we won.
wow.
And it's like, hey, we've done some amazing things. And you see some other people write back in the comments when they announce the winners. It's like, darn, I lost again. And the first time we entered, we hit it out of the park.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
It's come a long way.
I mean,
But we still have.
I can say what other people say. We're doing an amazing job, and I'll never say that because I'm not happy with what we're doing.
But we do have failures, and I think it would be.
No, you have failures.
It's important to say that probably maybe 1 out of 20 stones that you repair may have a failure. And most of the time, it's because the structural integrity of the stone is not there anymore. You know, the marble just disintegrates over time. It turns into what's called sugaring, and so it loses its consistency. And you try to bond it. We try to repair using the original materials, being we want to not be invasive. So you're going
They
to
try to make everything reversible.
do the best you can, and sometimes that works, and sometimes you have to be a little more aggressive if it fails the first time.
I mean, everything in cemeteries now is made out of granite, 99 out of 100 times, because it's a very hard stone. It's also a lot wider. Horrible design of marble stones is they're thin, so they snap very easily. They don't have structural integrity like granite does. You drop it, it shatters. It's like, try to put it back together. I say, it's really hard. A lot of the times when they constructed them, either with pins or mortar or whatever, they didn't have epoxies that we have today, where we can make a lot stronger bonds.
Or a tripod.
The tripod to pick things up.
Oh, yeah.
But on that point, I think that it's important to tell people that they really should not attempt to fix a stone themselves. When you mention epoxy, it isn't just epoxy.
Gorilla Glue, no.
So everything is, they're very specialized materials that are used, specialized techniques, so better for people not to try to repair them themselves.
It's a good point, because if you take a stone that's just failed, gravestone, and it's broken and it's 150 years old, and you have one that failed that somebody repaired with, say, silicone or cement, the amount of time that it takes to do that, to reverse what that other person did, more than doubles the repair time if it had just been sitting there. There are times that, you know, somebody comes along, pours silicone on, okay, now we think that's gonna work, and or cement, which is even worse, because cement will bond to the marble,
You can't get it off.
and you can't get it off.
There are old repairs we cannot fix.
No. And we have some right here in Beech Grove that somebody came along and said, oh, I think I'll fix this. And they poured cement in the center of these giant marble stones and put them back together so that there's a gap here and a gap there. And yeah, they're upright, but we can't do anything to that until it fails. And eventually it will fail. It just looks terrible. And so it just, you know, don't work above your knowledge base.
Right.
And that's how we started. Ted has always said, the thing I like about you guys is that you know what you don't know.
Well, he's trying to figure out who's teaching us what we're doing, and we're teaching ourselves now. We've reached,
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm glad you mentioned Beech Grove, because I'm looking for a family plot over there.
You want to come, sit up? We can't hear you.
Maybe,
what section, whereabouts?
well, I'm looking for the deed, actually. I found the stone that my grandmother bought for
Yep.
her uncle, Joseph Manuel Andrews, but there seems to be a discrepancy, and I can't find the deed.
Oh, the deeds I can help you with, yeah.
Do you think maybe tomorrow?
A lot of them are online,
Yeah,
under historical documents. Did you look there?
yeah.
I mean, online of the town. You looked, okay. Otherwise,
They were done on index cards.
a lot of them are
I was
lost.
at the cemetery, and we were looking for it. I have all the records that my grandmother had installed to me before she passed away in 2000, so I have the records back to Portugal, both sides of the family.
But the deeds for the cemetery, some of them have been lost. I mean, there's some in the Beech Grove, I mean, in the town clerk's
I found the
office.
stone.
Stone, yeah.
I found the stone that my grandma bought. It's a flat stone, and we can't find that card, and it's maybe you can help me with that.
Yeah,
Now,
I think so.
can you go through genealogy to prove, like, proof of ownership if you lose a deed?
No, no,
I'm just curious.
no, you can't, not for the deed itself, but
No, I'm just
this
saying-
has to be worked out. I mean, this is happening to more than you.
Yeah.
It's happening to a lot of other people. And their people want to be buried, and they have the right, but they can't, they have something, but they don't have a deed.
It's supposed to be left in the archives, in the safe here.
Well, when I looked at the vaults downstairs,
This isn't good for
you can't hear.
show.
You
That's
can't,
fine. We can
talk about it some other time.
Yeah,
I talked to
definitely.
Jimmy today about it already, so.
Yeah.
So, we were in there.
Definitely.
We were in the cemetery today looking for it. He said that.
This is
he said
messing
we got
up
tomorrow.
the show.
This is messing up my.
Let's see you, Manny.
They've been doing an hour's program very,
No, you brought up a valid point, Betty, with proper training and stuff. Like I say, Todd and I have followed Jonathan around New England.
got some results.
I got total results, yeah.
Oh,
We've done all kinds of crazy stuff, and I can only compare it, and I just thought of it as like me going home to build my own kitchen cabinets, because I own a saw. Hey, I can do this because I got cement, and my kitchen cabinets wouldn't come out looking like cabinets. But no, I think we've done enough yakking, and I want to just thank everybody for the positive input.
But ladies and gentlemen, we are now getting to the point where we will be able to see the results of the election. Carrie is writing away up there.
do you have a microphone with you?
I do not. This is for all districts combined. These are the unofficial results for the
Okay.
3-year seat.
Okay?
She should have
Okay.
a camera on it. So Shauna, if you want to read it, Betty, because
Shauna, 924, this is all precincts, A through E. Keith, 725.
I haven't heard yet about the second seat.
So we don't know Jake and Weston yet.
Well, congratulations.
No, Shauna and Keith.
Shauna is our friend.
Shauna, yeah. So congratulations, yep, to Shauna. And give it another couple minutes and see if the second seat results come in.
Okay.
All on you. No, the more I thought about it earlier today, what silly things I might say, and it's important to me of just trying to keep the history of Westport alive. And I know down the point, you just replaced the Mariners lost at Seastone, because we're just upgrading, and there's a lot of people out of Westport that have been lost over the countless years.
We added,
And how many were added that were not there?
33.
Yeah.
But again, this is a function of availability of data. I mean, Kuki Macumber did this on his own. Now we have the whole web.
Long way.
And I was just talking to somebody, every day there's more stuff on the website. And so we've, on the internet. So that's one of the reasons. And also, it was more than one person researching. I mean, Richard Gordon and Robin and I were researching, and we already knew some of this. And once you get Robin on a task, by God, she's going to find it.
Wildfire.
Yeah, and Richard is extraordinary. So, and we knew to look to the people of color also, that community, which people didn't have the data before, but now we've brought it out. So that's how this all happens, is people all working together. The nice thing about the old stone, we put it back at Albanese, and Mikey Lee's mother was over there looking for, I don't think she'd mind if I say this, she was looking for a stone for Mikey, and she saw the back of this, and she didn't know what stone it was, and she said, "Oh, that's beautiful." And Jan at Albany said, "Well, that was the Mariners lost at sea." And she said, "Oh, I took Mikey down there every day. We went around that." And so they actually chiseled out the names, and now that stone,
is there.
isn't that wonderful?
Yes, it
I mean, we kind of cried. It was
No, it's meaningful.
fantastic that it ended up
I
that
mean,
way.
we've been lucky enough to have attention from local newspapers, media. We're doing good things, and I just keep it in my mind. People ask me why we're doing this, and it's just a matter of giving it back to our community, which is a dying thing. I mean, pardon the pun for working in cemeteries. But not a lot of people do a lot for their communities anymore. And I try to work with the Mill Pond, which is next door to my house, which a lot of people don't have time for. I plant vegetables over there just because it's a nice thing to do. And I think that's something that will keep Westport being special. The more people that volunteer and kick back or donate a little bit or help out here and there, I think it makes us better. And I hope to aspire our surrounding communities to do the same. I mean, I know Judy Lund has reached out to you about CPA funding and stuff.
Yeah. So we have the other results. Jake, 894, Weston, 712. That means the winner for the one-year term is Jake, and the winner for the three-year term is Shauna. I'll repeat, Shauna, 924, Keith, 725. So they were fairly close races. But the will of the people
Yes.
is written up there.
And I hope,
Congratulations
Yes.
to all of them for running, thank you, and to
And I-
Shauna and Jake for winning.
I hope they run again. I hope this doesn't discourage them.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I think that's it. Okay?
Yes, so Westport, there's your results. Betty and I want to get out of here. But thank you for watching, and we'll see you next election.
Thank you.
Thank you.